Okay. We talked about Dad coming to Nina to give you your diamond.
That's right.
And then the wedding was set for the 3rd of September. So
Right.
why don't you go ahead and tell us about your wedding day?
Well, we had a mass at 8 o'clock in the morning. And I think, I don't remember exactly what time I got up, but I had to get the breakfast sort of ready before I went to church, like you do here. And it wasn't a long mass, just a short mass. Had my sister and my daddy's brother as attendants. That was it. We just had plain dress clothes on. No big deal like they have now, with a wedding gown and a trail and a... So anyway, after mass, we stood in line, not too long because there weren't too many at church. And then came home and had breakfast with our immediate family, and of course the Malloys were in on it too. They were friends of Bill's.
And you said that he stayed with them the night before.
He stayed there the night before. Oh, I think they sort of planned this whole thing themselves. Because they knew me and they knew he would be alone. So that was it.
And they were neighbors out on the farm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They were neighbors from childhood, really, from the family's childhood. So they sort of decided, oh, and I can remember too, that was just before we were married, Daddy had the thrashers. Well, he was completely alone in the house, there wasn't anybody. So Bridget Malloy would drive the car, she and I came out, and we fixed, well, they were there just for a lunch, I think. So we fixed a lunch for the thrashers. Bridget was my bodyguard. And we stayed overnight. Of course, it was too late for us to go home. Then we left and went the next morning.
Your chaperone.
I was chaperoned properly.
So where did you go on your honeymoon?
We went to Aunt Catherine's in St. Paul. She had spent the summer with the family there, and the mother died, and then she had to be back because her husband was a ball player and traveled around the country. And then it was school time for the boys, so she had to go back, and so Daddy was alone, and Bill was alone, and from that time until he got married.
Mm-hmm.
And,
what did you do in St. Paul on your honeymoon?
well, we went to the Minnesota State Fair. It was really wonderful. Fun. That's where we went. And we stayed, well, we got there, I think it was on Sunday afternoon, because we stayed overnight in Stevens Point, Wisconsin. That's where we stayed. We went to Mass there in the morning, and then had breakfast and took off. Stayed at Catherine's. So. Well, and that was it.
I suppose that was an all-day drive.
Well, sure, and then visited around, and then we got back on...
you stayed with Catherine?
Yeah, she stayed there, and well, I can't remember exactly whether we left on Friday. I think it was Friday. My folks, of course, were out on the farm with my Aunt Cal and Uncle Bob.
You mean out at Wayside?
At the Wayside Farm.
Oh.
They went out to the farm. They didn't do the chores, but Gerhard Hitz did the chores, and they were there. Aunt Cal had the time of her life. She loved to rummage through things. So, well, anyway.
So then when you came back, did Uncle Bob come to live with you right away?
Oh, sure, he stayed. period.
This was your dad's brother.
You know, and he was happy to be there with the cattle.
Mhm.
He loved farming. That was his life. So we had company from the time it was kind of like a chaperone.
But you got pregnant anyway.
Yeah.
Soon.
Pregnant anyway. And,
Fairly soon.
yeah, about a month later.
Well, tell about your pregnancy and about your illness.
With Jack,
Mhm.
oh, I had the flu, but good, in May. That's what brought him earlier. Sure did. Went to the pier, and my Bill said, "You are staying at your mother's," because I didn't feel good. The doctor was a doctor from the pier. We'll be near the doctor. And that's what he wanted, so I stayed. And during the night, I got the worst chill that I ever got in my life. Never had one like it after. Oh, my temperature soared to Lord knows what. I don't have any idea what it was. And I was downstairs, in a bedroom downstairs, and Mother and Dad's bedroom was upstairs. And about 2 o'clock in the morning, she heard my teeth chattering from upstairs. She came down, she called the doctor. He came. Well, he lived right in the pier, and he came, and he stayed until daylight. And he said, if the temperature didn't go down, I remember that, before daylight, he was taking me to the hospital. But it must have dropped. And I stayed then with Grandma until just before Labor Day.
Memorial Day.
Yeah, no, it was Labor Day in those days.
No.
And
Really?
wasn't it Labor? No, Memorial Day. That's right. You're better off than I am. And then went out to the farm and cleaned up the house and did some baking and got them ready so that they'd be able to batch it for a while. And then it wasn't very long, only a matter of a few days, when Jack decided that he was coming. It was the 2nd of June. That wasn't far from Memorial Day. And Mother must have called Daddy to come, and so he came. We went to the hospital, and I can't remember the exact time, but Jack was born around 4:30 in the afternoon.
And how much did he weigh?
About 4 pounds and a few ounces.
So he was...
Skin and bone. And I was the other end of it. Skin and bone.
Oh, and then tell about what you heard the doctor and the nurse
Oh, yeah.
saying.
When Jack was being born, I heard them say, well, the nurse said to the doctor, "Did you ever lose a patient?" And he said, "No, not yet." And Jack was baptized as soon as they saw the top of his head. I knew that. It was cold water.
So he was about a month early or more than that?
Well, no, I would say at least a month.
Mhm.
But he sure looked like he was a preemie.
Oh, and what about, I forgot to ask you about the rash.
Oh, that. Oh, Dr. Goggins said it was scabies. That's from dirt.
And when did you get that?
Oh, I got it about 3 months before Jack was born. We had an old tramp at the house, but I didn't let him sleep in a bed. He slept on a couch out in the old kitchen. But I doubt it was from that. It was just plain nerves. But break out with a rash, an itch like crazy. All over, legs, arms, back, front.
So what was the treatment?
Well, he thought it was scabies, so he had sulfur and lard. You know, they make an ointment of it. Rub that all over me, and then put on a long pair of underwear over there. Oh,
Wool, I suppose.
well, no, it could be cotton, but it
Oh.
would come. Anybody that ever went to hell would know what it felt like. It was terrible,
Oh.
but it didn't do any good, not a bit of good. So I ditched the underwear and I ditched the sulfur and well, it was sulfur and fat, lard, or whatever they put in. That was awful
Treatment.
though. But I would scratch. Well, I must have looked terrible.
In fact, I remember you telling me after Jack was born that they wouldn't put you in the same,
No, but they put Jack with me.
in a
They
different
wouldn't-
area.
They wouldn't put Jack with the babies,
Uh-huh.
but he didn't have it. It was me that had
But
it.
did they quarantine you too?
Well, I don't know whether they did or not, and I cared less, but after Jack was born, before I ever left the hospital, the itch was all gone. And that was a matter of a few days.